points they've scored this year. But as we say, we're looking at major improvements coming from Toyota, particularly over the winter months. And well, there's a bit of work going on, not on the engine there, but a lot of work on PJ Jones's car.
Yeah, PJ's done a really good job. He's really meshed well with his race engineer, Gerald Tyler. The last 4 or 5 races, these two have really got a good thing going. Very good working ratio. Just like changing a suspension link up there on the right rear corner of that car. Some damage, perhaps, maybe in that incident with Adrian Fernandez at that last restart.
Just had news that Brian Herter is going to be heading into the pits for a splash of fuel. And that will be, as you say, Jeremy, to make sure that he can then make it through the rest of the race without stopping again.
Yeah, and he'll be able to go flat out now. I think he'll be able to turn that fuel mixture right up. Some of these other guys are going to be cruising right back, but he's going to be able to come in and run full rich, hopefully, to the end of this race. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Of course, Brian won't want too many other full course cautions, because all that'll do will help the other guys. But here comes a pace car past us here. The hand up there on the passenger side of the car. 1 lap to go before we go green.
Now we've had 1 hour of this race so far, which is interesting to see, and we've had 22 laps. So there's Brian Herter into the pits, by the way. So it's going to be, it looks as though it'll be under the 50 laps by the end. There's a problem for Herter, in fact. What's going on?
He stalled the engine. Absolutely makes no difference at all at this stage. He'd be happy to get that out of the way, I suppose, because he's going to be last in any case as he rejoined after making that pit stop. He's already right at the back of the pack, so it certainly hasn't cost him anything. He'll just be kicking himself a bit and saying, make sure I don't do that next time I come into the pits.
Right, so Herter back out onto the track once more, and well, we'll just have to see what happens with the others at the moment. 22 laps completed, as I mentioned. Now, can we really expect him to go another sort of 22 laps on this tank of fuel, Jeremy? I mean, is he just doing the splash now? He's still going to have to make 1 more stop. So really, he's still going to have to make 1 more stop, but the other guys are going to have to make 2 more stops. That's the critical issue here. People like Blundell, Zanardi, Gugelmin, they're going to have to make 2 more stops, but Brian's will just be down to 1 stop, and he'll be able to run pretty much flat out without having to worry about economy up to that next stop.
Yeah, and he'll be hoping, of course, this race goes the whole distance. As you say, we've got 1 hour in the books already. It will be called at the 2-hour distance, and as you say, just 22 laps in the books. So 28 laps scheduled to go, and just under 1 hour in which to complete those laps.
I guess if they don't get too much yellow, it's possible, but if they carry on having as many yellow flags as we've had in this middle part of the race, then it will be a 2-hour limit, I should think, that would be brought in. Great shots. So there's some great camera positions around this track, and it really lends itself to some spectacular angles on the cars. Yeah,
it does, doesn't it? It is a fabulous racetrack. This camera angle here, actually, the camera is on top of a huge crane above the quarry, which is actually on the other side of the carousel, which is the next corner that these cars will negotiate. And I tell you what, I don't know whether I'd fancy being up on that crane. It's a long way up in the air.
Yeah, it's quite breezy today. I should think the cameraman's shaking around a bit up there, but doing a fine job and giving us some spectacular pictures from this Road America circuit. We're up in a bit of a sort of holiday region of the States up here. It used to be a popular holiday resort for people from Chicago in days before flight became so commonplace for holidays. And the lakes around here, Lake Elkhart itself, a popular holiday resort, and still is to a large extent, but perhaps more nowadays used by people from Milwaukee, etc., rather than from Chicago. But a lovely area of the country. Obviously some pretty seriously cold winters, but during the summer it's a lovely place to be. Let's just run through the order, shall we, while we're waiting for this race to get underway again. Mark Blundell is our leader, Zanardi in 2nd, Gugelmin in 3rd, De Ferran is 4th, ahead of Scott Pruitt 5th, Fittipaldi doing a fine job in 6th, you're running on board with him now. Greg Moore 7th, Raul Boesel is in 8th, then Belby Rahal in 9th, Andre Ribeiro 10th, ahead of Jimmy Vasser and Alonso Jr.
Back from there, Parker Johnson, Michel Jourdain Jr., Juan Fangio, Richie Hearn, Adrian Fernandez, Max Papis, and then Brian Herter will be at the back of the pack. We've got 23 laps in the books, and we're going green, and there is Zanardi looking to make a move on Mark Blundell.
Yes, he's hogged down the inside. Is he going to be brave into turn 1? Remember, Zanardi needs the points in the championship. He might not take too big a gamble, although he's already seen him charge to get past Michael Andretti today. Through the kink of turn number 2, down towards turn number 3 now, and then they go onto another long straight, which heads downhill. And again, they're building up to around 200 miles an hour in these conditions. Now they really will be getting to those speeds again as the track continues to dry out down this hill at around. Oh, now that's interesting. Zanardi seemed to run over a little piece of debris or something there. A little bit of a spark under the car. You saw the front of the car wobble. That was strange. I don't know whether something got thrown up behind Mark Blundell's car. He seems to have survived the moment, but Zanardi in second. No! Is that Vassar? Is that Vassar? That is Jimmy Vassar, I think. So that's his teammate who was in 11th place. Number 1 car of Jimmy Vassar spinning down there at turn number 5. As I say, I think Zanardi survived whatever it was, but I think something went under the car. It may just have been a stone or something.
Wasn't that chipmunk, I hope, was it?
I don't think it was the chipmunk. I don't think it would have sparked quite as much as that. But there is Charlie Nierberg just making his way around at the back of the field.
News from the pit said that Vassar reckoned he was hit by Parker Johnson. It's not the first time that's happened this year.
No, that's right. And Parker Johnson's on a bit of a tenuous strand at the moment in that drive in the green tail. And talking of the man himself, it looks as though his race has come to an end.
Yeah, that is actually at the same place. I think he's pulled off there in turn 5 and through those tyres. He's probably out of the race where you can see the steering wheel out already and Parker following close behind it. So just across from there, under the Texaco-Haviland Bridge, the Billy Mitchell Bridge, turn 13, come the race leaders Mark Blundell and Alex Zanardi close behind him. There is the battle for 5th place between Pruitt and on board with Christian Fittipaldi.
Yeah, just correcting a slide. That was the corner where Christian had an accident in qualifying earlier on this weekend. And Christian, who came close to winning this race last year, is looking superb again here today. Now chasing down towards turn 1. Meanwhile, side by side across the line was Bozell and Ribeiro, and they were absolute. There it is. Oh, Bozell's lost it. Bozell hits Ribeiro, and they both go off at turn number 1 into the gravel trap. Oh, what a shame. They were side by side when they came past us here, and it looked as though it was going to be a tremendous battle, but in fact it was Bozell who lost it on the brakes coming into turn 1, and poor Andre Ribeiro was just the victim in the end, in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely nothing Andre Ribeiro could do about that. We could see the angle here that Bozell had lost control of the car and was spinning backwards, but Andre Ribeiro, he's concentrating on turning into the corner. Here we are, the replay here. There goes Scott Pruitt, there goes Christian Fittipaldi, then Moore and Rahal alongside each other. Behind them there is Raul Bozell losing it under braking. Andre's already committed to turning into the corner, nothing he could do, and off go both of those Brazilians. But you know, Andre Ribeiro had moved up on that previous restart and then threw it all away by running off the road a couple of corners, so he really shouldn't have been in that position in any case, I'd say.
Now the problem for Bozell there was he was on the wet line, of course, and he tried to outbrake Ribeiro, who was on the dry line, and what happened was the rear tyres just locked up momentarily under heavy braking, and that's the problem we're going to have now, because the dry line is really quite pronounced around the circuit. The meeting in the middle of a desert, like it looks like, doesn't it? And having a little discussion, and well, Ribeiro doesn't look too angry. I suppose it's just one of those things. I'm sure Raul will have apologized for that. He just lost it on that slippery side of the track, and a great shame because they were shaping up to have a good race, those two.
Thumbs up from Ribeiro there to one of the kart safety crews, and also from Raul Bozell. But
we nearly got a quick view of. A shame we didn't get a proper shot of Raul there. He seems to be growing a moustache and beard this weekend, doesn't he?
He's got one of those goatees, hasn't he?
Well, yeah.
It seems to be the rage all around these days.
That's right, with a change of look for Raul Bozell, but a change of luck as well. He doesn't finish this one, so...
He hasn't dyed his head yet. He's not following the Jacques Villeneuve and Tom Kendall over here in a Trans Am, who incidentally won his 10th consecutive SCCA Trans Am race yesterday afternoon. He's bleached his hair, and he's pretty proud of the fact that Jacques followed him in doing that. Other winner this weekend in the Atlantic race this morning, Alex Barron for Lynx Racing added yet another win. That's his 4th win of the year to extend his lead in the Cool Toyota Atlantic Championship.
So Blundell leads them round, and still under full course yellow, which is obviously a little disappointing. We want to get some racing going here. We've had far too many laps under yellow flag, but we've got Michael Andretti in the pits.
That this is tough to talk about, but I got to ask you, was it the right decision to, and I believe it was your call, to make the change to the slicks, and you were kind of the guinea pig?
Yeah, I still stick by my decision. It was definitely the right decision. I mean, when I came out of the pits, I was in front of Al Jr., and he was all over me until we got to the carousel, and I pulled him about 3 or 4 seconds just through the carousel and the kinks. So I knew at that point that I made the right decision, and I just went in under braking pretty much at the same place as I was with the wets, which I had done in other corners, and I thought I'd be okay, and it locked the rears, and I tried to save it, and I didn't, and I just screwed up, you know, but I still feel the right decision.
And with it, the championship, I guess, is gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame it came down to that, you know. I just you can look at a lot of different races, and you know, but this one hurts when it's the one that actually does it, and it's my fault. So it'll be a long night tonight.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
Yeah, a long night, absolutely, for Michael Andretti. He's got to accept the blame for that one, and well, that's exactly what he did in the interview, but it doesn't make it any easier. Now we have two Brazilians walking along a concrete wall as they make their way back to the pits. Blundell is still our race leader as we're under yellow flag race conditions at the moment. So there's Blundell, and there you can see the speed on the slick tyres. A bit of an irrelevant graphic, really. It's getting drier, so it's bound to be going faster, isn't it, really? But we are going to go green this time around, so Alex Zanardi will be trying to keep as close as he can to the rear wing of Mark Blundell, and Mark Blundell slows it down and goes again. This is classic rolling start procedure, just trying to catch out the man who's behind, and if you're the leader, you've got the chance to play those games, and Mark Blundell played them perfectly. Look at the gap that he's opened up as they come up the hill.
Cat and mouse. Mark Blundell's the cat, and Alex Zanardi the mouse, and the mouse is under pressure from Mauricio Gugelmin. They flash past the start-finish line. Gugelmin looked to the inside into turn one.
Yeah, he's going for it. He's trying to take second place, and he's done it. He's got alongside, and Zanardi decided not to brave it out too much going into turn one there. He said, well, if you want it that badly, you can have it. I want to stay in this race. I've got to score points here today to try and extend my advantage. But he's got Gilles de Ferran behind him now.
Yeah, we're on board with Gilles de Ferran. He reckoned that Mauricio Gugelmin was asleep at the last restart. Not so this time, Ben.
No, Gugelmin really making up for that awful restart quite a few laps ago now. And Gugelmin doing a fine job, and Zanardi being caught out by Mark Blundell. It served him right for being so close behind him, really. That is the penalty you pay for trying to be right up someone's gearbox at the restart, and Zanardi paid the penalty in big measure. On board with Gilles de Ferran, this great camera angle. We had this in Mid-Ohio last week as well. It's just mounted on the front wing of the car, and well, it just gives you such a good view of the track. Zanardi so close to the back of Gugelmin's car, and Mark Blundell's taking advantage of all this to escape up front.
Indeed, there it is, the battle for second place going into the carousel. Gugelmin ahead of Alex Zanardi. It's you can see now they're back on the racing line, the tighter line through that corner. It's now pretty much dry through there. This next place here, well, there's the dry line emerging through the kink.
With Andre Ribeiro, tell us what happened from your seat.
Well, we were side by side before. This was the problem. No, I passed Raul getting out of turn 11, and I was half a car in front of him on the outside going into the corner, and then something happened with him, and he touched on the back of my car.
You're obviously okay. Can you tell us what happened, Raul, that triggered the incident?
Yeah, we came side by side on the straight, and I think still wet there on the braking area, so I was in the inside, my car got sideways and we touched, and that's what happened.
It's such a treacherous condition out there for everybody right now. Is the driver who can stay extremely patient going to have the advantage, or is it experience going to come into play?
I think the track start to dry out. The problem is like overtake, you go offline, is still wet there. So that's the trick situation.
Okay, thanks guys.
So action continuing out on circuit at the moment as Mark Blundell just pulls away a little bit from Gugelmin, but Zanardi is looking anxious to get back into second place and get past Mauricio Gugelmin. Is he going to go for the inside down here? Be careful, Alex. It's going to be wet and slippery on the inside line down into turn number 5, but it looks as though he's made a clean pass. Another good pass from Alex Zanardi, and he really is a racing driver that can find the gap, take the opportunity, and make it work, can't he? We've seen it so often before. This year in Cleveland, for example, when he overtook everybody, he's doing it again here. Oh, Max Papis has taken a little trip down the escape road.
Maybe he tried the same move in Alex Zanardi on the inside line there. He found it a little bit more slick than Alex did. A great pass by Alex Zanardi. Well, there he is getting together with Gualter Salas.
Yes, Gualter seems to be involved in just about 75% of all the incidents this afternoon, whether his fault or not. And Max Papis has just taken that drive down the escape road, and I think that's the end because he was quite high in the air there. That left rear suspension must be fairly severely damaged, I think. We'll have to wait and see. They're pretty strong, these cars, you know. That's the Reynard chassis. It stands up to a pretty heavy treatment. A bit of a difficult weekend though for Max. They've already had to send one of his monocoque chassis back to England after damage sustained when he hit a spun Greg Moore in practice earlier in the weekend.
Back to the Reynard composite shop there for some hasty repairs. There goes Gilles de Ferran there, just holding off Christian Fittipaldi. That is the battle for 4th position on board with Christian Fittipaldi to crest the rise across start-finish line. 28 laps in the books.
So still some way to go, 21 laps still to go as Christian Fittipaldi lines up fellow Brazilian Gil de Ferran. And this is the battle for 4th place. And Christian Fittipaldi went out last week in Mid-Ohio with transmission problems. That was disappointing for him. But we've just heard that he may be getting a few problems with his ECU, with the engine management system.